Millions of Americans believe the government turned the Twin Towers into rubble, and that powerful elites mask their rituals with ridiculous pizza stories. This video dives into why that belief grips people, how misinformation travels faster than facts, and what evidence actually counts. No lectures, just clear thinking and real-life examples, like how one sensational post can feel more persuasive than 100 careful reports, or how a messy timeline gets stitched into a tidy, scary narrative. We'll unpack the psychology behind why simple, shocking stories slip into our feeds after a shocking event, and how confirmation bias nudges us toward convenient conclusions even when the truth is messy. You'll get practical tips you can use right away. Check sources, compare timelines, watch for cherry-picked data, and learn to separate speculation from solid evidence. If you've ever wondered why certain theories feel so convincing, or what to do when a thread starts to pull at your curiosity, you're in the right place. This is about understanding the pull of big stories in a world of endless feeds, and giving you a straightforward way to sort signal from noise with a touch of humor along the way. Stay with me. The why behind these beliefs is often more revealing than the beliefs themselves. The lure of a grand, simple explanation. Big shocks overwhelm our sense of order, and people reach for one clear answer. The mind loves a single, clean cause because it feels like a map through the fog. That pull isn't a sign of weakness. It's a human coping trick under pressure. The lure of a grand, simple explanation offers a quick sense of control, a villain, a motive, and a story you can tell out loud. In this frame, the appeal isn't about proving a point so much as feeling understood. Some people believe the government was involved in events that shocked the nation, and they're drawn to an explanation that assigns blame to one source rather than many. It makes the world feel navigable, and it gives supporters a clear target to discuss, defend, and share with friends. Real life, by contrast, tends to be messy, with clues piling up from different corners and no single spark that explains everything away. When you've got a tough problem at work or at home, a simple culprit, whether a faulty wire, a slip in judgment, or a miscommunication, can seem easier to grasp than a long chain of small missteps. That preference for a grand plan isn't just about the brain's hunger for order. It travels easily through social networks, where clean, dramatic stories spread faster than nuanced analysis. People like to rally around a tale they can quote in a sentence or two, something that feels definitive rather than provisional. The more vivid the imagery, the more likely it is to stick, which is why dramatic phrases and memorable symbols show up in these stories. The archetype of secret plots and hidden rituals is appealing because it promises meaning and power in a world that often feels confusing and unpredictable. To sort through these claims, it helps to pause and test the idea like you a recipe. Start with a simple check. What would have to be true for the claim to hold up? Then look for independent sources and see if they agree. Notice if the narrative cherry-picks facts while ignoring the rest. Compare what you're hearing with more cautious explanations that acknowledge complexity. In everyday life, this approach works too. When something breaks, you test a few possible causes rather than blaming a single master switch. Small, careful steps beat dramatic leaps, especially when the goal is understanding rather than winning an argument. Erosion of trust. Why official narratives fail to satisfy doubt. A lot of people feel the official account doesn't land where they live. When explanations come with tight timelines, polished language, and a single narrator at the center, doubt can creep in any way. The gaps between what is said and what everyday life shows can feel like a wall you can't see through. People notice missing pieces, contradictions that aren't fully resolved, and decisions explained with big words that sound like cover-up language to their ears. The result is a quiet ache. Trust erodes not in a roar, but in a steady drip of questions. A simple truth sits behind the tension. We want to know how things actually happened, not just who is supposed to have said it. Life offers plenty of parallels. Think of a product recall you followed or a local school decision that felt rushed. The official side gives you a version of events, then waits for questions you're told to trust. If the follow-up is brief, vague, or never fully transparent, doubt grows. People start to fill the blanks with stories that feel coherent to them, even if they aren't fully supported by evidence. When that happens, sensational lines, like a rumor wrapped in a mystery, become easier to grab onto than a careful, messy, human explanation. In the online world, these gaps travel faster than a rumor in a coffee shop, hopping from post to post with each like and share. The phrase pizza stories surfaces as a shorthand for a bigger pattern. When people feel they aren't getting straight answers, they search for symbols and narratives that feel powerful and complete. The internet loves narratives that seem to reveal secret networks and hidden rituals, especially when real processes are complex and slow to unfold. Cognitive habits, like quick pattern recognition and a preference for simple causation, push people towards stories that map neatly onto their fears. Humor, shock, and vivid, easily retold scenes help these tales stick. The risk isn't that everyone believes a wild claim. It's that doubt travels faster than careful, patient verification and crowds out balanced reporting. To close the gap, a practical approach helps. Clear language matters more than a clever tagline. When officials invite independent review, publish raw materials, and explain how conclusions were reached in plain terms, doubt loses some of its grip. People respond to visible accountability and to answers that acknowledge what is still unknown rather than pretending every question has a neat, tidy fix. It helps when conversations stay open, with room for critique and correction without shaming those who ask questions. A bit of humor, a touch of humility, and a willingness to show the work behind the conclusion can make a stubborn audience feel seen. Trust returns not with a perfect story, but with a trustworthy process that invites scrutiny and doesn't fear it. The pizza narrative, how mimetic stories take root. Memes spread because they trade in simple signals that feel tangible and real. The pizza narrative rides that same highway, turning a plain, everyday symbol into a shortcut for suspicion about power. It doesn't ask people to digest a long argument. It offers a crisp image and a claim that feels emotionally charged and easy to share. That combination makes it glide from post to post, from comment to comment, with surprising speed. The core idea isn't that every detail is true, but that the idea is memorable and contagious. The symbol works because pizza is familiar, non-threatening, and loaded with social context. It's something you might order with friends, a comfort food in ordinary life, which makes the idea of secret rituals feel oddly plausible when wrapped in a familiar setting. A single image or phrase can become a shorthand for a broader theory about elites and hidden power. A story about a pizza place becomes a stand-in for a much bigger claim, and people fill in the gaps with their own fears. A real-world example that is circulated online is a conspiracy narrative that claimed a well-known restaurant tied to powerful people served as a front for secret activities. The details were debunked, but the meme kept circling because the pizza link was easy to remember and easy to repeat. Mimetic stories thrive when they align with existing worries and social dynamics. People notice tiny inconsistencies and interpret them as signs of a grand design, then share the interpretation with a shrug and a joke. Social feeds reward punchy statements, not careful nuance, so quick interpretations of a photo, a logo, or a rumor become clickable proof in a chain of thoughts that never stops to test itself. Everyday life supplies plenty of ripe moments. A stray symbol in a restaurant, a misread headline, a friend's offhand comment. Any of these can become evidence in a narrative that treats speculation as insider information. The pizza motif turns debate into a game of capture the flag, where the flag is a story that feels both mysterious and familiar. To recognize and think through the pizza-driven narrative, it helps to slow down and test the ideas like you would a rumor at the office or in a chat with a skeptical friend. Look for sources that offer more than a catchy soundbite, and check whether the claims hinge on specific, verifiable details or on broad impressions dressed up as proof. Notice if the talk leans on emotional language, us versus them framing, or a tendency to alias complex events with a single symbol. A healthy response is to ask for context, point to reliable reporting, and keep the conversation grounded in real-life examples rather than abstractions. The goal isn't to dull curiosity, but to keep curiosity from sprinting past careful thinking and turning into a story that travels faster than the truth. The ritual metaphor: power, secrecy, and symbolic narratives. Rituals are powerful because humans respond to repeated symbolic acts. When events feel chaotic, rituals turn noise into a pattern you can follow. In public discourse, conspiracy theories often frame history as a drama of hidden rites performed by unseen hands. That framing offers a quick path from confusion to a sense of order. People notice rituals in everyday life: secret clubs, initiation rites, corporate brand rituals, even the little signals between neighbors. The pattern is attractive because it promises clarity without requiring a full college course in politics. A simple symbol can feel like a code that unlocks the truth. Power shows up as something practiced rather than merely talked about. Ceremonial displays, briefings, openings, and exclusive gatherings read as evidence of control. Secrecy isn't only about hiding facts. It's about giving information a sacred aura, something only a chosen few can interpret. Symbolic narratives then tie those acts to a bigger story. The idea that the powerful act with intent, that there is a hidden plan behind visible events. Everyday life provides familiar signals: an insider joke, a club handshake, a brand ritual, that make the pattern feel normal. When people start seeing those signals in big events, the leap from mystery to conspiracy seems shorter than you'd expect. Take the idea about the Twin Towers and a government plot and view it through the ritual lens. Believers describe the event as a ritual of power, implying that what looks like chaos is actually a designed rite meant to reorganize society. Secrecy is the fuel. Narratives wrap themselves around symbols: the skyline, the flag, the idea of danger looming, because symbols feel true even when the facts are unsettled. The chatter around pizza stories turns elite misdeeds into a joke, a way to slip taboo topics in a conversation. A meme about a pizza place becomes a stand-in for a secret network. People repeat it because it's easy to recall and feels like a whispered truth. These claims have been debunked by credible investigations. Yet the rhythm of ritual storytelling keeps the idea alive in some circles. Why does this ritual frame endure, and what does it give people? It offers a sense of agency in a world that often feels random. You don't need a degree to follow a story where secret acts explain big events. You just need the feeling that you're part of a pattern that makes sense. The ritual metaphor helps people connect disparate clues into a coherent arc, even if the arc is built on speculative bricks. At times, ritual cues can strengthen community and shared identity, especially in uncertain times. But they can also glide into misinformation when symbolism outruns evidence. Understanding the pull of this metaphor sheds light on why some narratives persist without requiring anyone to endorse them as fact. Instead, it explains the appeal of stories that feel like shortcuts to control, belonging, and meaning. From skepticism to scrutiny, pathways to critical engagement, millions of Americans harbor questions about what happened that day and why. Some threads turn those questions into claims that blame the government and link powerful elites to shadowy rituals. Some narratives even tie elites to rituals under the catchy banner of pizza stories. These threads spill across social media, blogs, and forums, where doubt can morph into certainty or dissipate into rumor. The mix of fear, distrust, and clever storytelling makes the path from skepticism to scrutiny feel messy but navigable. Pathways to critical engagement begin by naming exactly what you're evaluating. Is the claim broad, like the official story is wrong, or specific, like the evidence shows 10th happened? Next, check the source. Reliable sources provide transparent methods, verifiable data, and accountability for errors. As for the evidence, you would need to be convinced and notice when those standards shift. Then look for independent verification from experts who are not tied to one side. And practice patience, because good checks take time. For example, if you see a post claiming a miracle diet works, you can look for peer-reviewed studies and the positions of major health organizations instead of taking one influencer's word. People trip up on cognitive traps and social dynamics. We tend to notice what confirms what we already think, and it happens fast, like spotting a familiar logo in a crowded shelf. It's easy to slide into motivated reasoning, letting emotions steer what we accept because it feels right or aligns with our identity. Echo chambers amplify these effects, turning quiet doubt into loud certainty. To counter this, broaden your feed, seek credible outlets, and test ideas against a simple checklist. Pause before sharing. A good practice is to ask yourself what evidence would actually change your mind. For example, when health or political claims surface, look for high-quality studies and see what independent experts say, not just what a single post asserts. In practical terms, move from skepticism to scrutiny by building a reliable habit. Keep a small notebook of claims you encounter, the sources, and the verdict you reach after checking them. Favor primary documents and independent analyses over sensational clips. When you feel drawn to a dramatic narrative, slow down, verify, and discuss with someone who plays devil's advocate. The goal isn't to win an argument, but to arrive at a well-supported conclusion, even if it challenges what you hoped was true. That kind of engagement stays useful long after the latest post has faded. To wrap it up, what we explored is why these theories keep showing up. People reach for simple stories when the world feels messy, and a deep distrust in institutions can push them toward dramatic explanations. The claim that the government turned the towers to rubble isn't supported by credible engineering and investigative work. Credible sources point to a complex disaster caused by aircraft impacts, fires, and how the buildings were designed. The flashy pizza stories show how odd details and jokes can distract from real evidence. The pattern isn't about one villain. It's about fear, the desire for quick answers, and the social pull of sharing something sensational. Chances are you've seen something online that made you pause and think, what's really going on? You're not alone. We all stumble into rabbit holes sometimes, especially when a story sounds dramatic and taps into shared worries. First VE chased a few wild links myself. Never trust a headline that promises proof with zero receipts. If this video helped you sort through the noise, hit like, drop a comment with the time you checked a fact and found a better explanation, and consider subscribing for more calm, evidence-based explainers. In future videos, we'll dive into how misinformation spreads, simple steps to verify sources, and how to have thoughtful conversations with friends and family when a bold claim pops up.